But welcome back. After Jake joined us for the 76ers, we want to thank him. And obviously, if you want to be like Jake, check out patreon.com/mostvaluable podcast. But we are back with Dave Oster on the line, and we are going to talk about the Toronto Raptors, unfortunately losing Kawhi Leonard to the Los Angeles Clippers for those Toronto Raptors fans. And congratulations to those Clippers fans. But we're talking about what's the next for the Toronto Raptors. Looking at their roster, Dave, you got OG Anunoby, Chris Boucher, Marc Gasol, Serge, Jeremy Lin, Kyle Lowry, Jordan Lloyd, Pat McCaw, but he's a free agent. I think Lin is as well. I could be wrong on that. Jody Meeks, Malcolm Miller, Eric Moreland, Norman Powell, Pascal Siakam, and Fred VanVleet. The big ones being Serge, OG, Mark, Kyle Lowry, and then going with Norm, Pascal, and Fred VanVleet. Where does this put them post-Kawhi?
It still puts them in a pretty good place in the Eastern Conference. I'll be honest. It's not the best place to be, but y'all won your championship, so be happy. On the upside, though, they will have so much cap space up next year. They're basically in a situation where the only guys under guaranteed contracts next year are Norman Powell. And then it's just options, RFAs. I mean, that's it. That's it. They've got all their money available. So Kyle Lowry can come back on a friendly deal. Fred VanVleet probably going to get some money. The question is, how much long-term are they going to lock him up for?
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously, Pascal Siakam is going to earn that money. Like, whatever it's going to be a huge dollar amount, I'm sure. I don't know if he gets full max. We'll see. This year he'll definitely have an opportunity to set himself up for it, but, this is a team where they didn't dig themselves into a hole to win this championship. They moved on from DeMar DeRozan and ended up in a fantastic situation where Kawhi Leonard with basically no strings attached kind of a deal.
Yeah.
And here we are, their hangover period, they didn't end up like the Cavs where it's like, well, you guys are fucked for a couple of years now. No, they're still a really good team.
Yeah, and they signed Stanley Johnson, too, who I missed. The question I want to ask before we get into all this, because you bring up a great point about the contracts, there was the report that the Thunder offered both Russell Westbrook and Paul George to the Raptors to keep Kawhi Leonard, and they apparently turned it down. And looking at now how the contracts are set up, I think it makes sense. Do you agree with that?
I do. I would not have done that because even if you get both those guys, it's not a guarantee that Kawhi would have resigned. I'll be 100% honest. There was no 100% guarantee that, and I think that knowing that, that's why Masai Ujiri was like,
well, you think if they got Paul George, the guy he wanted to play with, he wouldn't have signed back?
I don't know how long he was signed back for. If it was going to be, because remember there was the rumors about the short-term deal, the 2-1, the 1-1.
Yeah, I don't trust any of that.
Well, the problem is I don't know what to trust anymore. But point being, I don't think it was 100% he was going to. I think there was still a chance that he wouldn't. And setting yourself up with the guy who we just spent 20 minutes talking about, Russell Westbrook, being a detriment because of his contract, you could get stuck holding that pan, and Kawhi demands a trade out, or Paul George demands a trade out, or they both demand trades out at some point. So it's that wasn't worth the risk when you have the most improved player in the league in Pascal Siakam. You still have OG Anunoby, who looked promising year one, year two, a little bit of development issues. So we'll see. Once he's all healthy again, coming into this year, he can have a bigger role. And you just got some aging veterans on there, and Marc Gasol, who $25 million, yeah, no big deal. And Kyle Lowry on the final year of his contract as well. So I think this year is just you could probably make the playoffs in the East, no problem. And then see who wants to come back on friendlier deals between Lowry and Marc Gasol, and play it out from there.
Yeah, I want to paint a clear picture about that cap figure because next year, like you said, Kawhi Leonard gone. Kyle Lowry gone. He's a UFA in 2020. So is Fred VanVleet. He's a UFA. Norman Powell is there until 2021. He'll be a UFA in 2022. He does have a player option for $11.6 million in 2021. Pat McCaw is currently an RFA. Stanley Johnson just signed. He has signed for a $3.6 million contract this year, and then he's got a player option 2020 for $3.8, so he'd be gone by 2021. OG Anunoby has a team option in 2020 for $3.8 million. Malcolm Miller is off the books in 2020. Serge Ibaka's $23.2 is off the books next year. He'll be UFA in 2020. Siakam is an RFA in 2020. Chris Boucher, former Oregon Duck, is an RFA in 2020 as well for 1.5, and then Marc Gasol is a UFA in 2020 as well. So you look at that, and that's a fresh start. And we see this huge movement of what I think is going to happen, and we see teams pretty much tanking or going for it. And now I think this is just going to become more drastic. We see every team either going for it, and now we're going to see teams just fully pull away from it and try to get that draft stock so they can build through the draft. And I think that's what Toronto's going to be doing come 2020. I think the only player that is for sure there, outside of the guys with options, if we're talking about core guys like Van Fleet, Lowry, Anunoby, Serge, Siakam, and Gasol, I think the only person that's for sure there after the 2020 season is Pascal Siakam.
Yeah, I mean, he is something special for sure, and I think we're just starting to scratch the surface on how good he can be. Fred VanVleet would be awesome to bring back, and I think that that's one that they'd like to do. Reward him. He had a great finals, and I love a lot of the other guys, but I just don't know. I think there's a lot of money that can be tossed around from other teams, and like you said, maybe they can get some team-friendly deals. Maybe they just decide that, look, we don't need to re-sign a 30-something-year-old center or a mid-30s point guard.
That's the thing is I think that even with Van Fleet, too, I don't think they should re-sign Kyle Lowry. I don't think they should re-sign Marc Gasol. I don't think they should bring back Serge Ibaka. And even then, you talk about Fred Van Fleet, and yes, he had this great performance in the finals, and he is super important to that team, but he was important to the 2019 team, and he might not be important to the 2023 team. And I think that's when their window might reopen again. And I think if you're talking about Fred Van Fleet, a guy who just had a fantastic finals, and we have all these teams going for it, right? And he's on a cheap deal for $9.4 million, you could possibly hit it big come trade deadline to a team that wants him to add a backup point guard or even a starting point guard. I mean, I think he showed it in the finals that he could be up to that caliber. I think that, since he isn't an RFA, you might dangle him out there as trade bait come, February.
That'd be interesting if they're in that situation where they could move on from Fred VanVleet for, either young talent or draft picks. That would be an intriguing move because, it's one thing to be like, look, we're not going to win a championship this year, but I think you have to let it play out. So if they're struggling, if there's an injury or something that happens and, they're in a position where, the championship odds are not well and they can get good value back, sure.
Yeah, that's why I say trade deadline.
Yeah, how good are you going to be? Can Pascal Siakam take yet another step? Can OG Anunoby take a step forward? Because if those two things happen, who knows where this team's going to be at. But, yeah, if they're in a position where it's looking unlikely, I would try to get the most benefit out of these players who I'm not planning on re-signing anyway.
Yeah, and I think too with all of this, especially with those contracts and being freed up, you're going to be able to take on bad contracts as well if you get to that point. And I think that the Raptors' goal, again, was just to win a championship. You did that. And now it's time to make sure you win another championship. And that doesn't have to be right away. You want to build a team that can last a long time. And they were able to do that with DeRozan and Lowry. And to hit that window, they had to move away from DeRozan. And I think to make sure that you open up another window, you might have to make some disheartening moves to build up this team. And I don't think there's really anybody left of the core left that is really salvageable. And I'm going to compare it to hockey. You look at the Blackhawks, and they won 3 championships in 5 years. And with the way the salary cap is played out in hockey, I know you don't know, Dave, because you don't care about hockey.
True that.
It's pretty much it gets tighter for teams that win the championship because you want to be able to recycle teams. You're not able to build dynasties, so it gets tougher to keep these guys. And the Blackhawks had to move away from key depth pieces and get rid of them way before they wanted to. And right now with the Raptors and with the Blackhawks too, they were able to keep Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews. So that ability to cycle out depth really came back to them for some of them. They've been able to rebuild and replenish their depth. But the only way for them to replenish their depth and become a great team again is I think they have to start fully new and fully fresh because there isn't that core guy anymore. If Kawhi was there, then that would totally change things, and I think they'd be making different moves to, extend that window even longer. But now I think you got to close that window on yourself just to reopen it again a couple years down the line.
I agree. It's it's a hard thing to admit, but it's a smart move long term for the franchise. And they did a great job by setting themselves up for it in the past and not taking on any extra water during the process. So,
well, and what's the one thing Masai Ujiri can do is scout talent.
Yeah, no, it'll be very interesting to see if there's some intriguing undrafted free agent pickups post summer league that end up on the 905.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be looking out.
So you talked a little bit about playoffs. Should that be the expectation for the Raptors, or should it just be play and see?
I think that the first month you're going to get to see a lot out of what they want to roll out. Like, how can you build an offense around? Is it going to be around Pascal Siakam as the focal point? If so, how is that going to look? How good are you guys? Because honestly, Serge Gasol at the 4-5, or basically Serge and Gasol switching off at the 5,
mm-hmm.
and then Pascal at the 4, OG at the 3, with Stan John backing him up. Lowry's still at the 1. You can roll VanVleet at the 2 or Norm. Either one of those guys. Like, that roster is still probably better than the majority of the East. So
I think they're a playoff team, but that's the thing is, like, even if you're a playoff team, I think that it's super weird to say, but I think that even might put them into sell mode. Like, that's how drastic I think it is becoming with these teams.
Like, how are you going to sell a $35 million, Kyle Lowry,
That's why I'm saying VanVleet.
Yeah,
like
I get the VanVleet. I'm fine with.
A $9 million VanVleet, I think that could be a sellable thing. $23 million Serge Ibaka, I think that defense off the bench is probably sellable.
Potentially. He's got that killer mid-range game to him, too.
Marc Gasol, we saw that he was picked up by a championship team last year. I wouldn't be too shocked if someone wants to add him again.
Yeah, it's just moving that money around could get difficult, but because they do have the space, to take on larger contracts in the future, there could be some flexibility there. I don't know. I think I might let it play out. I want to see how good Pascal Siakam is as the focal point of the team, to be 100% honest with you.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
That's why I'm not locking anything in. It's like, they should be sellers. I'm like, I want to see Pascal and OG together. And I think those are the two key pieces moving forward. And we'll see after a month or two where they're at, really. But either way, they're looking for the future. I don't think this year is going to be a realistic championship window for them. But I don't know if they necessarily have to sell the guys out. That might hurt some goodwill of the franchise, and it's already hard enough to get guys to come up to play in Toronto as it stands.
Mm-hmm. Dave, I'm a person that wants to be right immediately, so of course I'm going to just come hot out the gate and stick to it, especially 8 months later. That's why I bet my face on LeBron staying in Cleveland. That's why I was betting myself on KD and Kyrie not signing in New York. They didn't. They signed in Brooklyn, which is different, at least from a team name. Geographically, it's the same place.
Yep.
But I'm going to stick with it. I think that this team needs to clean it up, and I think that's why they're structured that salary that way. And I think that when it comes to 2022, the only Raptor that might be still on the team, there might be others strangling along. I wouldn't be surprised if Norm Powell stayed along, or if they did decide to rescind VanVleet. I don't think it'd be a bad idea. But come 2022, I think the only name that I could for sure marker in would be Siakam, because I don't think he's a star enough to demand a way out. And getting that money, if they give him a max as an RFA, I think he would stay. So I'd Sharpie in Pascal Siakam's name for the 2022 Raptors, but outside of that, there's no name I'm putting down.
Nice. Yeah. I begrudgingly will agree with you on that, because I want to will OG and Newbie there, but I don't know. He's not showing me enough to be there.
The We Agree podcast just hit you for a pretty decent time, and that's because Kawhi Leonard got traded. Kawhi Leonard signed with the Clippers, and he got Paul George to be traded to the Clippers. So we're going to come out big and swinging, and hopefully we get this up soon. I got a lot of work to do, so we're going to end this podcast. Dave?
Oh, Jesus. Feckin just tweeted, what I heard, I'd have Woj notifications turned on 53 minutes ago.
What?
I'm on the Thunder's subreddit, and one of the reporters said I'd have the Woj notifications turned on.
Oh,
so
Jesus.
Russ could get traded shortly.
I have Russ. I have Woj on notifications. Jesus Christ.
Yep. So we'll see. There could be a trade tonight. Who knows?
Oh no. Dave, throw a guess out there, because we're probably going to be recording a podcast soon.
Let's just go with the Heat, because that makes that. They're a rumored team. They've got pieces. They've got cash to match. I don't want it to happen, but they could do it. Please not the Bulls. Please not the Bulls.
I'm going to say the Bulls.
No, not the Bulls.
How do you spell that reporter's name?
Feken.
Feken. The great Nate Feken?
Yep, Feken.
Feken. I don't see that tweet.
He had a tweet. Nate Feken. Oh, he was replying to my name is Kaylee, who I have no idea.
Okay, yeah, I see it. So he tweeted, just came into the station. Thunder facility is very close. There were 8 vehicles in a parking lot at 1:30 a.m. Saturday morning. Did you see some cars at the practice facility tonight on your way? Great, Nate. Just curious if Sam is going to pull another fast one on us Thunder fans. And then he said there's been a bunch there all day. Was too exhausted to go look when I left earlier. Well, and then someone said, well, I get it together because I need answers. And then they said, from what I've heard, have Woj notifications on. So hopefully this guy's right, and hopefully we get some news. But also hopefully not, because please give me a break. At least make it Wednesday, because I need to edit a podcast. All right, Dave, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean. Holding down the fort.
No problem. I miss you guys. Have fun out in Summer League and avoid any earthquakes. We also want to thank Jake for joining us on the podcast. If you want to be like Jake, check out patreon.com/MostlyOutPodcast. This is the intro or the outro that I did not do when Jake was on. So this is the end of the podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed. Don't forget to rate and subscribe. Don't forget to check us out on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, YouTube, etc., especially that Patreon link, patreon.com/MostlyOutPodcast. We have a ton of people in there talking every single day, dropping links, dropping hot takes, dropping bad advice. Check it out, patreon.com/MostlyOutPodcast. It's a fun time. Again, for Dave Oster, for Jake, I'm Sean, and for Ricky, too. Ricky's in the other room. You can kind of hear him in Dave's phone. Shout out to Ricky. Shout out to everybody who's watching. We will see you next time.